Hello, dear aspirants. Welcome to English Literature and Language Academy. Hope you are all well and doing well in your study. And once again, welcome back to KEA English Lecturer Series 3. This lecture series is very useful for upcoming KEA PU English lecturers. And please remember, this video lecture series also very helpful for UGC-NET exam, KSET or SLET exam, upcoming assistant professor exams, and HSTRs and any other competitive exams based on literature. In this context, in this video, we try to analyze the previous videos. You can take it as sample or model videos or sample questions for your preparations. Let's move on without wasting our time. Before starting our analysis, so please do follow the description box in which we have provided our PDF links as well as Telegram channel links that can be very useful to follow and to update in this regard. Let's move on. The first question. In Frost at Midnight, the poet ends his thoughts with blessings to, let's see options. Option 1, the inmates of the cottage. Option 2, nature. Option 3, his infant son. Option 4, the populous village. So the answer is his infant son. It means in the poem The Frost at Midnight, the poet S.T. Coleridge, this poem was written by S.T. Coleridge, ends his thoughts with blessings to his infant son. Let's see the background of this poem and the poet. So as we know that S.T. Coleridge was a famous romantic poet and he had written most of his famous poems collaboratively with his contemporary and his favorite friend William Wordsworth in the lyrical ballads. Please remember, lyrical ballads in 1798. In this poetic anthology, this poem was included. And remember, S.T. Coleridge's son name is Hartley. Hartley. This poem was dedicated to his son, infant son, Hartley. And in this poem, the poet talks about the true effect of nature and the child. Here, the poet praying for his son to mingle his life, his child life with nature. So, in this context, Frost at Midnight is a very famous poem by S.T. Coleridge. Let's see on question number 2. Question reads, which one of these titles is a collection? Look at collection of essays by Hazlitt. So here let's see options. Option 1, the Tatler. Option 2, the Table Talk. Option 3, the Spectator. Option 4, the Rambler. The answer is 2, the Table Talk. So this is a collection of essays written by William Hazlitt in 1821-22. So let's see background of William Hazlitt. He was a very famous essayist. Please remember, essayist in the age of romantic or early 19th century. And he was a very famous scholar as well as a critic of the Romantic age. And he also associated with like Coleridge, William Wordsworth, and many more. So finally, the Table Talk is a collection of essay written by Hazlitt in 1821-22. So please remember, most of his contemporaries had written poems in the same name. In this context, you please try to understand the title, The Table Talk. Let's move on the next question. Mr. Pickwicks, look at it is the name of a character. Mr. Pickwicks, man servant. Look at man servant in Pickwick Papers. Let's see the option. Dodson. Option 2, Bob Sawyer. Option 3, Samuel Weller. Option 4, Snodgrass. So the answer is, any guess? Samuel Weller. Please remember, answer is Samuel Weller. Let's see, let's analyze the question. Mr. Pickwick is a famous character in Pickwick Papers. It is a novel by Charles Dickens. Charles Dickens was a famous Victorian novelist. In this novel, we find the protagonist, Mr. Pickwicks. So, what is Mr. Pickwicks? The sense in the name. In his name, he started a club called Pickwick. Look at Pickwick Club. Please remember Pickwick Club. So, what is the full title of the novel? The posthumous. Look at the posthumous papers. The posthumous papers of the Pickwick Club. So, this is the full title of the novel, Pickwick Papers. This novel was written by Charles Dickens. It was written in 1837. 1837. And very significant aspect of this novel is, this was the first novel. Please remember, this was the first novel by Charles Dickens. In this novel, Samuel Weller is a manservant of Mr. Pickwick, who was the protagonist in the novel, and it was an eponymous novel. Eponymous novel. It means the protagonist name was given to the particular novel. Let's see on the next question. Browning's Childe Roland to the Dark Tower came takes its title from, it means this is a famous poem by Robert Browning. This title is taken from the following Shakespeare's plays. Let's see which play. The first option is Hamlet. Option 2, As You Like It. Option 3, King Lear. Option 4, All Is Well That Ends Well. The title Childe Roland to the Dark Tower came is taken from King Lear by William Shakespeare. This play was written in 1607. So let's see the background of the poem. So this poem was written by Robert Browning in 1852 and published in 1855. This poem was anthologized in his famous anthology Men and Women. This was an anthology by Robert Browning. He was a very famous Victorian poet. Please remember, Robert Browning was famous for his monologues. Dramatic monologues. Please remember this term. And this is a narrative poem. This is a narrative poem. Thematically, this poem talks about journey towards death and destiny. Okay, from exam point of view, please remember we have to read carefully some famous poems that have taken its titles from some famous work. So in this context, this question becomes very important for PU lecturers exam. Let's move on the next question. Which one of these novels by Dickens is dedicated to Carlisle? So here is a novel which was written by Dickens and dedicated to his contemporary friend Thomas Carlyle. Let's see which one is. Option 1, Hard Times. Option 2, A Tale of Two Cities. Option 3, Our Mutual Friend. Option 4, Great Expectations. The answer is option 1, Hard Times. This novel was dedicated to Thomas Carlyle. Please remember, Dickens and Carlyle had been friendship for 30 years. So in this context, this novel was dedicated to Carlyle. So let's see the background of this novel, Hard Times. This novel was published in 1854. All these novels were written by Charles Dickens, but this novel, Hard Times, was dedicated to Thomas Carlyle. Let's see the full title of this novel, Hard Times for These Times. This is the full title of the novel, Hard Times for These Times. And this novel was very popular because this novel has setting Victorian age, as well as it was a novel has a great criticism of Victorian age. The setting is industrial background, and it was criticized for utilitarian philosophy. Please remember these terms. This novel's famous 20th century critic was Dr. F.R. Lewis. F.R. Lewis. So please remember all these elements what we have analyzed in this question. Let's see on to the next question. Angela in the Eve of Saint Agnes. The Eve of Saint Agnes is Madeline's. Look at here, two characters, Angela and Madeline, in the poem The Eve of Saint Agnes. This poem was written by John Keats. Here the question is on relationship between these two characters. Let's see the option. Option 1, mother. Option 2, sister. Option 3, friend. Option 4, nurse. The answer is nurse. This poem has setting in medieval. Look at in medieval ages. This poem was written in 18, 19 and 20. It was published. The fact of this poem is this poem has written in the Spenserian. Please remember, in Spenserian stanza. So The Eve of Saint Agnes was written by John Keats. Here the relationship between Angela and Madeline. Madeline is the protagonist or the central character in the poem by John Keats. Their relationship is Angela was old nurse. So let's move on to the next question. To which intellectual group did Tennyson belong? So before that, Tennyson was a famous Victorian poet and the national poet, in other words, poet laureate of mid 19th century in England. So let's see to which intellectual group did Tennyson belong. Option 1, University Wits. Option 2, Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. Option 3, Fabian Society. Option 4, the Apostles. So the answer is the Apostles. Okay, let's see one by one the options. University Wits come under 16th century. Please remember, they were the precursor of Elizabethan drama and contemporary of Shakespeare. And Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood and the Apostles were the contemporary two intellectual groups of Tennyson. Please remember, Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood and the Apostles. And Fabian Society, it was established at the end of 19th century. So it means Tennyson did not belong to any Fabian Society, and it was clear that even he was not belong to University Wits and the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, he was also not belong to this group. Being it is a contemporary of Tennyson, but he was not belong to Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, but he was belong to the Apostles. What is Apostles? Is a group of, please remember, is a group or club at the Cambridge University where he was studying, and his very famous friend, to him he was dedicated his famous poem to memoriam, that is Arthur Hallam. Please remember, this name is very important in the context of Tennyson poetry. Most of his poems are elegies and lyric poems. Those poems or the poetic writings were dedicated to his Cambridge friend Arthur Hallam. Okay, let's move on to the next question. We are all poets when we read a poem well. Look at, we are all poets when we read a poem well. Whose assertion is this? It means, who told this famous line? Let's see. Wordsworth, Carlisle, Tennyson, Charles Lamb. The answer is Thomas Carlyle. Please remember, he was not a famous poem, but he was a famous orator, a lecturer, and art critic. That's why once in his lecture he quoted this line, "We are all poets when we read a poem well." His famous work, The Hero as Poet, in 1840. Here in this lecture series, later it was published as an essay. In this he declared, "We are all poets when we read a poem well," and he was comparing poet to the hero. Please remember, Thomas Carlyle was a famous Victorian art critic. Art critic. Please remember, Thomas Carlyle has written most of the famous works on art and literature. Okay, let's move on to the next question. The eponymous, look at the word, it is a literary term. Eponymous means the name of the novel was named after the protagonist. Protagonist is called eponymous. Here the eponymous heroine in the poem Christabel. Look at Christabel. First sees Geraldine. This is another character in the poem. Geraldine. It means, look at once again, the eponymous heroine of Christabel first sees Geraldine. Option 1, under an oak tree. Option 2, at the castle gate. Option 3, on rock outside the castle. Option 4, in the trench by the castle. The answer is option 1, under an oak tree. This was a famous poem by S.T. Coleridge. S.T. Coleridge was a famous romantic poet. Please remember, this is also an incomplete poem or fragment by Christabel. This poem was written and published in 1797 and 98 it was published. Actually, this poem was rejected by Wordsworth. So Coleridge published this poem in 1816 along with his famous poem Kubla Khan. Please remember Kubla Khan. These two poems, Christabel and Kubla Khan, was published in 1816. Let's see the last question. A statement has given here, not the first of experience, but experience itself is the end. Look at, not the fruit of experience, but experience itself is the end. Who gave this statement? Let's see the option. Arnold's, Hazlitt's, Lamb's, and Patter's. Please remember, all these are the critics of the 19th century. More or less, they belong to Romantic age as well as Victorian age. So, which critic told this statement? The answer is Pater. His full name is Walter Pater. In his famous work, The Renaissance, please remember this work was written by Walter Pater. He was a famous art critic of Victorian age. It was published in 1873. He told that not the fruit of experience, but experience itself is the end. It means experience is more powerful, according to Walter Pater. In this way, we have tried to analyze some sample or previous questions which were asked in previous PU English lecturer exam. Hope it will be very useful. Please remember, subscribe, share, like, and comment in the comment section. If you like more and more and share, that really make us bring more quality videos, and it is really helpful for all those aspirants. Thank you for watching this video, and please don't forget to see description box. Thank you.